Good morning. Good
Welcome.
morning, all. Today is the 4th of July. So we're celebrating the freedom, independence for our country. And our talk is the soul's call to freedom. So we're talking about our own personal freedom and freedom of all human beings. So I'm going to start with a reading by Ernest Holmes. It's actually dated in 365 July 1, and it's called I'm Free with the Freedom of God. He says, we all wish to be free, but at the same time, we should realize that liberty is not license. To say that we are free with the freedom of God does not mean that we're free to do that which contradicts the divine nature. We are free only in that freedom that God is, the freedom to be alive, to enjoy living, to enter into the activities of everyday living with enthusiasm and interest. We're free to love and be loved. We're free to give full and complete expression to every capacity we possess, provided this freedom harms no one and hurts no thing. This freedom is enough because if we were free to do that which is destructive, we would ultimately destroy ourselves. And in so doing, we would not only deny, but also defame the nature of divinity itself. Therefore, we always pray, quote, thy will be done, unquote. But within this will, we know there's scope enough for self expression, plenty of room to move around and express life to its fullest. So the prayer is, and I invite you to join with me with this I am statement of prayer, says, I am free with the freedom of God. Today, I manifest this freedom in joy. I think of it with deep gratitude to the giver of all life and with a deep inward sense of my union with the whole. In my own will and imagination, I see myself free, complete and perfect. I feel back to the center of my being, which is God, and affirm that His freedom is my freedom. And I include my own physical body in this freedom, as well as every activity in which I'm engaged. I expand my consciousness and invite new experiences, knowing that they shall be created for me by the same power that makes everything. I enter into this freedom with complete abandonment, with the feeling that all things are working out well, and with the deep and sincere desire to live so that my freedom shall be imparted to others, that we all may feel that we are in partnership with the infinite. And so it is.
It's powerful reading.
It is. And there is no teaching like our teaching to really get across that freedom is yours right here, right now. We are not bound by a bunch of thou shalt nots, and if you do, you'll be punished for eternity. What we believe is that there's one power and presence, and that's the power of God that is everywhere present, and it's present within us. And we have the freedom to use the way it operates, which is by law. We call that law the law of mind. So we not only are free to, but we get to enjoy using this law to manifest more of what we individually would like to experience in this life.
And I think that law operates uniformly in the sense that it is always the law, but it operates differently or expresses differently through each of us. I was talking to a person recently who was of a Brazilian ancestry, and her native language was Portuguese. And she said she often hears spirit. And I said, do you hear spirit in English? She said, no, I hear spirit in Portuguese. And I thought this is interesting that we each hear spirit, we each hear the divine in the language and in the culture and in the experience that we are in. And why I think that's important is that often, without meaning to, we lose respect for people, or we don't respect people who view the law working differently than we do. And I think that's a really important piece because we, in a way, hold them and ourselves in bondage with the lack of respect. And I know as a counselor for many, many years, one of the first clues that I would have when I was doing marriage and family counseling was when the couple no longer respected each other, the relationship was over. It didn't mean that they didn't like or know or understand each other's body of knowledge, but they didn't have that respect. And so part of freedom is having self-respect and also having respect for other people and their difference. And I know within our community, we have a great deal of diversity of opinion and ideas as how things work. And it's really easy to simply say, well, that's not in accord with what I think. So let's just write that one off. And it's very different when you say, let's not write it off. Let's respect it, honor it, and ask ourselves if there's a truth that we don't see and allow ourselves to be in that space of wonder and available for a new understanding.
Yeah, exactly. But I love what you said about interpersonal relationship. Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Buddhist monk and teacher, uh, has a quote. He says, "You must love in such a way that the person you love feels free." And that is so important. And it's so lost often in
Yeah.
interpersonal relationships, especially the primary relationship. It's often a, I love you if you behave the way I approve or do what I approve. And I'm mad at you if you don't do what I want.
Well, even
And
even worse than that is I not only am mad at you or I disapprove, I think less of you. I don't hold you in high esteem because you have failed to live up to my standards of what I believe or how I believe. And that's certainly the melting pot for destruction. Nothing can destroy a relationship more than saying, not only are you not doing what I want you to do, but unspoken is you're wrong for not doing it. There's something wrong with you. And I think the other side of that is we often do that to ourselves. We
mm,
look back at our own past and say, there's something wrong with me. And when I didn't know as much as I know now 20 years ago, and I did such and such, there was something wrong with me. What was wrong with you is you didn't know more. You hadn't figured out all the consequences. You hadn't done everything you could do now then. And so again, I go back to something that I love, which is we're always doing the best we can, given what we know and given what we believe. And we need to respect that in other people as well.
and we have free will. That's what
Yeah.
freedom is. And
Yeah.
that's God given. And that means we're free to make our own mistakes. And when we do make our own mistakes. But I know in times when I've been in conflict with people who thought they had authority over my life, my father, ex-husband, whatever, um, even when I did what I wanted against their will, and they turned out to be right, I wanted the right to choose and make my own mistakes. I wanted the right to learn from my own mistakes. And don't we all?
And
Don't we
that
all?
just happened is a week and a half ago. We were online and Judith found the Arctic cooler.
Oh, yes,
And
right.
I said, it's a
Oh,
fan.
it's a little air conditioning,
Yeah,
that
and
where
it's
you can
gonna
use in a
and,
room.
and and air conditioning companies all over are envious and are upset because of this new little product that only is about 10
Well,
inch.
it didn't say it was little. I thought it was
Yeah.
big.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a little 10-inch box fan. Uh,
Maybe 6
yeah,
inches.
6-inch box fan, and you pour water in the top of it or ice cubes. And I said, this is what it is. And she said, no, 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 I don't think so. So she bought it. The good news is not only did Judith learn from that mistake, because she learns from every mistake, she also had to do the return.
Yes,
And I think,
and got our
and
money
she got her
back.
money back. But I think that we often learn a lot when we have to do our own return.
It's a little what we used to call in the desert. I lived in the desert in Tucson. We used to call them swamp coolers. They
Yeah.
just add moisture to the air.
And
It's
many,
like we really need that in
yeah,
Florida.
a mini swamp cooler. And but the nice thing was that for the 10 minutes that it actually worked, you had several light choices that you could use. LED lights. It was pink and blue and yellow. It was really, really cool. And then it just died.
But
But
that's freedom, isn't it? We want to be free to make our own
yeah,
mistakes.
yeah. And what I could have done is said, Judith, I'm telling you what this is. Now you
Yeah,
need
you
to
could have.
listen to me because I'm right about this. And I know that I'm right about this. And then she could have said, why do you have to be right? And we could have had an argument about it. And we could have right now been in divorce court over an Arctic fan. Probably not, but
It didn't call itself an Arctic fan. I think it's an Arctic cooler.
yeah, yeah. And there was Arctic was the overstatement of the century.
Yes, It's Arctic because you put it in the freezer first
Yeah,
to get the
right, yeah.
water cold.
Or you send it to the Arctic and hope that somebody up there can thaw it
We
out.
better not talk
Yeah,
about a product anymore.
right, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a terrible product, don't get it. But I
So
think giving each other the respect that they deserve to explore the way they need to explore is freedom. And that's a really important piece. When you know somebody's already on the wrong foot, you know that. But how do you know that? Well, based on past experience. But the other possibility is that that Arctic fan could have come and it might actually have been better than I thought. It might have been of a different nature, a different construction, and it might have been a real find. So I reserve the right to be wrong and allow that person the opportunity to explore something that they haven't explored before and learn from that experience. But if you look at that little experience and translate that into all of life, it would make us a lot friendlier to each other.
and we do this particularly with our children. I
Yeah.
know particularly 18-year-old boys seem to be very headstrong and often headed in the wrong direction, and the parent is sure you know it's the right course. But often they are right. For example, I'm thinking of two 18-year-olds in the past in my family who were not ready to go to college at 18, and of course the parents know that's the right course for them. You should go right from high school to college. And what I found is you can try to make them, but you can't make them study. And really, they're probably right. They're not ready. They're not ready to buckle down and study and decide they want a little break. And so we have to honor individual choices and individual freedom, and freedom even to make their own mistakes.
So another dimension of freedom that I want to speak to today is the freedom to allow your own understanding to be expanded. The
Mm,
freedom to allow that which is God in us to operate fully and completely. How
mhm.
many times have you noticed in your own life that you've said, God, please help me with this? And the unspoken is, but I know you're going to have a hard time, or I know it's going to be difficult, or probably not for me, but I'm going to hope anyway. And we often mix a prayer, which is an affirmation of the nature of God working through us, and we tag along with that. And I sure hope it works, which is not,
Or we think it.
yeah, I can't think of a better way to undermine it. It would be the same thing as, I really love you, I think. Pretty much right now. I'm hopeful. I'm really hopeful that this love that I feel really right now is real, but I'm not so sure. And I wonder how many of us, if that were in the courtship, would have married the person we married. And so this relationship with God or higher power or divine intelligence requires us to say, I'm willing to accept things I don't understand that are larger than me. I'm willing to allow the universe and the world that I live in to be larger than I think it is. And in that larger universe and world, there is healing that can happen. There's wisdom that can occur. There's knowledge that can be brought forward. There's love that can be explored and expressed. There is so much more in this universe than we have seen because we have thought small. And we don't even know we're thinking small, but the universe, according to what Ernest Holmes is saying, and I really believe it's true, will operate through you according to your beliefs.
Mm.
And if you really believe the universe is small, my world is small, I'm not much in this universe, but I sure would like it to be bigger. Well, you've already framed the experience and it can't get bigger than that. And so what you're going to have to do is allow the box called the universe that you live in to be large enough or to have no walls so that all possibilities become able to be expressed.
So one thing that's occurred to me about this day, honoring the freedom of our country and our own personal freedom, the freedoms that we experience, is the freedom to use this thing we call the science of mind, the freedom to use the law of mind, which states that there's only one mind, that mind is God's mind, and my mind is a part of it. And I therefore use it by thinking and feeling, and as I do so, I create the experience I'm thinking and feeling about. Maybe not exactly, but in that
Mhm.
tone, in that attitude. And so, we know this is true. We know it's ours to use. We can use it to manifest better health, more wealth, more satisfaction in our relationships and love relationships, and in our creative self-expression, what we do in life that allows us to uniquely express our talents and our abilities. One of the things I found myself doing this week, after I got home from vacation and paid all the bills, is using one of my favorite prosperity affirmations that I learned from one of our practitioners, Sandy Marchman. And this is the way it goes. Dear God, having fun, send more money. And I absolutely love this one because it eliminates fear. And when you have fear, it's like, oh, please, God, send more money or what. That's the opposite of what that will
Right.
work. That works to create more lack. The fear creates more lack. So you need to pray affirmatively with expectation of your good. So this is like a letter to a parent when you're off at camp or college, when you say, dear parent, having a good time, send more money. And with the expectation that they will, because they love you and
Well,
they
like
want
all,
you to have a
because
good
we
time.
know that all parents are unlimited with funds.
That's true, but our Father in heaven is
Yeah, it's
Father,
absolutely true.
Mother in heaven, however you want to look at that. And so, in fact, I've been doing it with great fun and reminding other people about it this week, and already had manifestations. So I
Right.
just it makes me so excited to see the law of mind work, and we have the freedom to use it, and we often forget it because we get so into our fear and our fear of lack.
Well, when you say, dear God,
Hmm.
you are writing a letter to something real. You would not say, dear God, I hope you're there, or I hope there's a God.
Hmm.
So the first thing that you've really done is you've affirmed that there is a divine intelligence, and you've also affirmed that you're connected to it. And then you've affirmed even more powerfully than that, that it wants to serve in any way that it possibly can your highest and best good.
That it has the means and wants
Yes. So when
to
you
make
think
me
about,
happy. Yeah,
dear God, whoa, think about that, dear God,
yeah.
and having fun. And what that also means is that the track I'm choosing to explore, the way that I'm choosing to see myself in my life and the experience that I'm having, is as a divine joy, as fun. And why wouldn't any parent want to support that? Well, they do. And then to be able to say send money, it doesn't mean it won't come, because you wouldn't ask for something that wasn't going to come. So the expectation is that it will flow. But I think there is a lot more depth to that. Well, actually, what I think is the greatest truths are simple.
Yeah,
And it's a great truth with great simplicity, but great clarity. We need to get out from underneath all the words and see if we can refine this process to say, I love you.
exactly. And we need to have a few words like that that get us out of our fear. Because we are here to express and to experience and to have experiences of fun and joy and abundance. It's, there's no, we're not paying for sins. We're not being punished for anything, but we often punish ourselves
Mhm.
just through our fear and our fear of lack. And what we do with that, it's called um, there's a word for it, maltreatment. There's when we treat for what we don't want, mal meaning bad, that you end up getting what you don't want. So we need to remember it seems to be the easy path. It seems to be, well, this is just too easy and
Mhm.
Pollyannish and la la, but it's a law and it works. And I challenge you to work it more.
We were watching a movie recently, and the couple had been dating for a while, and both of them had been filling up with love and with passion for each other, but it had been unspoken. And so you see the two of them together with this enormous energy, but it's blocked. And what he says to her is, "This is probably out of place, and I probably shouldn't, but I love you." And she takes a step back, which makes you worry that it's going to be all over. And she says, "And I love you too." What happens when those words are spoken and that emotion is there? Is it explodes on the screen, but we don't get to see what happens. But but this divine explosion happens by giving the thought and the feeling and the experience the word and saying yes to it.
Yeah. Now, what I'd like to remind you of is that we don't get everything we want the minute we want it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so it's so easy to say, well, that didn't work. That doesn't work. That's pie in the sky. So part of this path of using this law and living life this way is a willingness to accept what is. knowing that whatever is best and more good is yet to come. So it's really a very spiritual way of being. Um, so it's not a selfish thing at all. It's all about me, 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 and what I want. That's not it, because you must have a very um, attitude of gratitude
Mhm.
for whatever is, and know more good is coming your way. So you have to develop patience and goodwill and kindness, all of the spiritual virtues.
My bedtime prayer recently, I do as best I can. Everyone who has a healing need of any kind that I know of, when I go to bed, I lay there for a few minutes and try to go through all of the people that I know and send and acknowledge the results that they're looking for as having already occurred.
Mm.
And then I look to myself and I think, well, what do I need? And I'm not sure that I know what I need. And so what I've ended my prayer with for myself is, I love you. Thank you, God.
Mm. Mm.
And affirming the connection, having it be filled with love, and saying thank you, even though I don't understand or even know fully all that you've done for me. And I do that because I sleep better and I wake up in a better mood after having said I love you and thank you than I do, God, there's been a lot going on this week. Could you please help me with this? But I hope it's for my best good. And would you help me with that? But I'm not so sure. I am sure of this one though. This one I really need. Recently it was a used Porsche Boxster. And I thought I really should have that car. One of the people on my Facebook friends
Uh,
has had this car for 20 years now, and I've been looking at it, and she's finally put it up for sale. And I thought, God, this is my chance. True, I don't have the money and I don't have the need, but this is it. And I got over that one with actually 4 or 5 hours, I think. But I mean, we're constantly inundated with wants and likes and desires that have very little to do with our own good or actual progress. And we learn to it's like going through the supermarket and saying, I would like to have all the mac and cheese and ice cream I can have, and the donuts, of course, and the smell of bread, and then passing all of that and saying I could, but I'm choosing not to. I have the freedom not to choose those things, and the freedom to choose the highest and the best for me.
Indeed.
I didn't get the Boxster.
So let's close with a prayer, shall we?
Sure.
So let's go within and know the truth, which is that there's one source of all life, one God, one infinite intelligence that is everywhere present and always operating, and is operating within the hearts and minds of each one of us. And it wants us to be free and express ourselves, and it is enriched by our experiences, because it is all that is. All that is expanded by our experiences. So we give thanks for this teaching, for this understanding of the law, for our use of the law of mind. And we release our word, knowing that it is done. And together we say,
And
and
so it
so
is.
it is.
Now, before we stop recording and go to the giving section and the music section that we've chosen for you today, let me say to all of you that we are a not-for-profit center for spiritual living, that we do sustain our existence as a result directly of you. Without you and your support, we can't be here. And so we say thank you in advance for the support you give us financially, emotionally, and spiritually.
And you may support us by going to our website, which is CSL, it stands for Center for Spiritual Living, but it's just cslpalmbeaches.org.
And